I get a lot of requests from gym owners on how to actually plan a migration or how you go from one software to the next. So some of the things we're going to talk about today is understanding the migration, the process, and the fees associated with it, if there are any fees, then comparing different software platforms to their processor and how you can get the most out of it when you're going through a migration. And then just some quick tips on the best practices to get a successful migration done if you're switching software platforms. And that's not just necessarily with BizOps, it's any software platform that you're switching to. So let's just first start this off. If you haven't gone into your agreement with your software company, I guarantee, or I bet, that one of the software platforms that you're using, there's probably some fine print in there, and you may or may not know that you're locked into a long-term commitment. Some of these agreements, they'll auto-renew for a commitment for 2-3 years. I've seen this happen because we've migrated customers over from different platforms. And then the other thing that happens is they actually have your credit card data of your customers. And not saying that they're trying to handcuff you, but they kind of do. They put barriers in place to make it difficult for you to leave. Not all of them do it, but some of them do it. So when you look at this, there's two things that you got to look at first. Number one, if you're choosing a software platform, are they going to let you out of the agreement? And if they do let you out of the agreement that you're in, are they going to give you all of the payment information of your customers that you've been inputting into the system? Right? So that's credit cards and ACH information. If they don't give it to you, okay, how can you get it? That's the next question that you want to ask if you ever leave them. So MindBody ABC, I'll tell you what, they're actually pretty good to work with. They do take a little bit of time and it does cost money. And most of these software platforms do charge you in order to take that information and switch it over. So I'm just going to give you a quick overview of how this works, right? You go into a software company, ours, MindBody, ABC Fitness, Zen Planner, any of those that exist out there. When you enter your payment information of your customer, okay, that's one area of information. That data gets encrypted. There's a key that's sent over to a gateway. The gateway that sits there houses that credit card information. The software platform doesn't house it. Okay, it's housed in a gateway. It's stored there securely, and it's locked up with a key. It's encrypted. Then you have the processor. Okay, the processor, you might see statements if you're working with any of these companies, TSYS, Elevon. You might see a statement come from PaySimple or Bluefin. Those companies process the payment, and they process the payment because it's triggered through your software. The software triggers the payment saying John owes $50 this month. This all happens very quickly. Sends it to the gateway. The gateway finds that key that's associated with John's name. They take that information and then send it over to the processor and say, hey, here's the card data that needs to be processed, but we're not going to actually give you the card data. We're just going to let you process it. Okay. So then they process it and they charge you a fee. Okay, the processor does. That fee can range. I've seen people get charged 10% because the processor is actually owned by the software company, or at least white labeled by the software company. And you can see this in Square, okay, Square or Stripe. Square, for example, they are the gateway and they are the processor and they're the software, okay? So they give you a nice user interface and you can build customers on Square, but you don't get all the nice features of handling personal training sessions and tying that to a session or tying that to a door if a customer has a membership. You don't have all those features to actually run your specific business, but it acts as a processor. You can just run payments on it. And you can also run recurring transactions on it, and that's another fee. So Square gets away with this because they act as the gateway, they act as the processor, and there's what's called interchange. Okay, interchange is the rate that the card company is charging the banks. Okay, so for example, Visa or MasterCard, they might charge anywhere, depending on the card type, there's hundreds of them. They might charge anywhere from 1.5% to 2%. Okay, so if they're going to charge that rate, what they're going to do is they're going to charge that 1.5 to 2% as an interchange rate, and then the bank or the processor is able to add another fee on top of it. Okay, so you might hear these terms. It's interchange plus. Okay, you might hear that when you're working with a processor. So when you're working with somebody like Square, they tell it to you very plainly. It's real simple because they know their margins. They'll say it's 2.9 plus 30 cents per transaction, one and done. Square, however, is getting their interchange plus, right? They do billions of dollars in transactions daily. And so because of that, they have a model, they've done the analytics on it, and they understand that version, how it works. Okay. You go over to somebody like a payment processor like MindBody, who white labels another company's processor. And what they do is they charge you a interchange rate plus that fee. Okay. And they may or may not tell you, they might just give you a document. You end up signing the document, and before you know it, you're paying a blended rate of like maybe 8 or 10%. Okay. So a lot of these companies, what they'll do is when you charge your customers through that account, say it's $100, when it finally gets to your bank account, okay, so you got the software, the gateway, the processor, everybody's got to make money along the way. They're all taking a piece of the pie. And then it finally gets over to your bank account. When they send it to your bank account the next day, instead of giving you $100, they might give you $90. There's a lot of transactions and batches that happen in a day. So, or over the course of a week. So you may not really see all that or reconcile it. But if you have somebody sitting there and going through the numbers, you might find out that your blended average over the course of a year is anywhere from 4 to 10%. And I've seen that in some cases. Okay. So now you're in a position where you want to leave. You're going, my software cost is too high. All the features that they have here aren't necessary for me. Customer support isn't where I need it to be. Okay, these are the common reasons why people leave, right? They have a pain that's large enough for them to move on to something else, right? They want to see something better. Or you're in a position where you're going, I don't need all these features, or it's just costing me too much. So then when you go to leave, you call up your software provider and you say, hey, I want to leave. Well, then they place it on you that either you're in a contract. Okay. By the way, BizOps does not do contracts. Since you're in the gym industry, you probably know the fears that a lot of customers have, and that's why a lot of gyms go to the month-to-month agreements, knowing that their customers are going to stay, on an average 18 months anyway. So here it is, they lock you down, and then they lock your data, right? So you're with their gateway, and your credit cards and your bank information is all locked up. If you want that from them, you got to pay a fee. Now, like I said, MindBody and ABC, I tell you, they're phenomenal as far as the way that they handle. They're very professional, and they'll go ahead and give you that data. Okay, but you got to pay for it. And I think the rate today is anywhere from $400 to $500. Okay, you pay the $400 to $500. They send the data over to your other software company, and then you got to hope that your software company is actually going to do the work to import that data. Okay, so there's some software companies out there that if you're leaving one company, do your due diligence and ask them the question. I've got all this payment information. Do you guys import not just the names of my customers, because that can happen overnight, or it can happen within minutes, but do you import all of the payment information? Because that's what you really need, right? You can wake some sleeping giants, and nothing against your members, but we all know that there's a small percentage of your members that actually work out at your gym. Okay, unless you're in a personal training environment and you've got a really small niche, you're like 150 members, or you building a community. But in most fitness facilities, right, there's a small percentage that actually use your facility on a regular basis. And so imagine having to send an email out to try and get all of the information from your customers to re-sign up again, basically give you their credit card information or their banking information. There's going to be customers that you wake up and they go, oh, well, thanks for calling me, or thanks for sending that email. I actually wanted to cancel anyway. And this becomes a big problem for you because it actually can tank your business, right? So that's something that you got to really be focused on and be serious about, because if that happens and that software company is not supporting you, then you potentially have a huge loss of customers. Now, the flip side is maybe you have some software companies. Okay, by the way, we do this on migrations, only because I've been in the game. I've been in your actual seat. I've owned gyms and I've had to switch software providers. So one of the things I wanted to make sure we did was, if somebody was coming from some other software system, that not only do we migrate the information, but we also mapped it to their memberships, and we did an audit of their current memberships. And we've actually found customers who had money that was missing, or incorrect data on the way that their customers were being billed, or the membership was set up as a monthly and it was supposed to be an annual. So we see this, we find it, we go back to our gym owners and we say, hey, listen, which one's correct, right, out of these variations. And then we get it all cleaned up, and then we import it. And then what they end up seeing is actually sometimes increase in revenue. Okay, so that's the other piece. Will your software company actually do the migration for you? If they do, is there an additional fee? So you got the software company you're leaving, they're going to charge you a fee. Software company that you're going to, first, do they actually import that data? Do they have the technology or the bandwidth to actually do that for you? Map it to the memberships or the personal training or the group packages for classes. Do they have the time to do it? And if they do, are they going to bill you for it? Okay, we don't bill you for it. It's just part of our package because, of course, we want your business. Now, I'm not just trying to sell you on BizOps, okay, because that's not the point here. The point is just to kind of give you the information that you need. So then when you go to your software provider, or if you're ever in the arena of having this idea that, hey, maybe I want to switch, just ask some of those questions to the software provider that you want to move to. Okay, how are they set up and how are they going to handle the transition? One company, and this is just my opinion, okay, only because I've had to deal with it. Zen Planner, the product's good. Okay. They work with a company called PaySimple. PaySimple is tough to deal with. Okay. They're only tough to deal with. There's a few people over there that I work with and they're great. But they send a USB drive. Okay. What happened to technology? We're like in ancient times. Give it to me on a floppy disk. Why don't you? Right? I mean, they send a USB drive, and that's how they send the information. They send it over in the mail on a USB drive on a stick. Okay. And sure, maybe you can claim that it's more secure. Okay. But there's ways to secure data electronically. I mean, there's no need. I mean, we got banks that are sending money across, different areas, and they're wiring money for billions of dollars. That happens. Why can't you just send some documents that are encrypted and put it in a file and send it over? MindBody and ABC, they're great. They give you a download link. You go in, you take the password that you have, you get the information. All that card data is encrypted. And then we actually send that over to a company called authorized.net. Okay, that's the gateway we use. And it's your gateway. It's not ours. So we send it over to authorized.net. That way, if you ever want to leave, you can. I mean, I've been in some relationships in the past, right? And maybe you have too, and that's why you're not in them anymore. But when you go out and you break up with a girlfriend, okay, I'm like looking years back, but you go out and you're not in that relationship for a reason, right? You don't want to be handcuffed to it. You don't want to be held with barriers to try and like get out of that thing. Okay, it's the same thing with software. Okay, you come in, you work with us, we put it on authorized.net's gateway. It's your data. Okay, we migrate it over from whatever platform you're on. You keep it. And if you ever want to leave us, guess what? Authorized.net is your gateway. You have total control over that data. You can do what you want with it. You can send it over somewhere else. You can plug somebody else's system into authorized.net, whatever you want. Okay. If it's not a good situation or a good fit, why be in the relationship, right? Let's make it easier for you to move on to the next stage. So that's what you got to be wary of. I will tell you this. Not only does PaySimple, and again, I don't like talking bad about people, and I'm not saying that this is bad, but their fees are pretty pricey. Okay, they charge $1,000 for a migration. So if you're with Zen Planner will give you the data that they have, which is the customer information, but then they're going to go ahead and send you over to PaySimple, which is the processor and gateway. When you contact PaySimple, they're going to have you fill out all kinds of forms, basically relieving them of any wrongdoing, right, in case the data is completely broken, okay, and corrupted. But also, they're going to charge you $1,000. They're going to take as long as they possibly can. And we're at 8 weeks for one customer on PaySimple. We still don't have the data. So, I just want you to be alert to that. The other one is Bluefin. They're also a little bit of a challenge to work with. Okay, so needless to say, do your homework, ask the right questions before you make a switch. And then during the process of migration, to make things simple, when you go through this process and you're trying to simplify things, get a breakdown of how the process works. Okay, so for us, when we onboard a new customer, first we'll set up their entire platform. And to make it easy, what happens is there's kind of like a a period where you're kind of working on both systems. It's usually about 2 weeks. Okay, so that allows you time to take all new customers. As soon as one of those platforms sends us the data, okay, we timestamp that. We go, okay, they sent us the data on this date. When they send us the data on that date, that's the day you should be importing or making sure that all customers are going into your new software system. Okay, because otherwise, if you put credit card information on your old software and the information was already sent, well, now you got a new user in the old software and you don't have that credit card information. So there's that transition period, and that's one of the biggest pieces, is making sure that you get up to speed on the software that you're using. That way, when you do actually make that transition, you're not inputting new information into an old system that's eventually going to be obsolete and you're leaving. Okay, you're leaving from that place. It's like moving out of a house. The last thing you want to do is buy more furniture for your new home, but you're putting it in your old house. You know, it doesn't work, right? Because then it's just more stuff you got to move. So same thing here. Work on your old platform, transition over to your new platform, and there's a period. There's an overlap period where you're working on both systems. One, to monitor what's going on. The other new one, to actually be aware of all of the new customers that you're onboarding and you're bringing in and you're inputting their information. All that stuff's going over to authorized.net or Square or Stripe or whoever you're using. That's how it works, okay? So that process can be pretty seamless. You just follow the path and it works out really well. I really thank you for listening. If there's any questions or anything, we have I think we have a blog specifically about this. You can go in there. I think we'll go ahead and put that blog in the show notes. You can read up on it and click on some links and kind of get some more information on it. Thanks for joining today, and we'll catch you on the flip side.